Hello everyone, welcome back to Silla's Poecats, or welcome to Silla's Poecats, and welcome to the new year. It has been 4 days and I cannot believe it. Well, 4.5 really. Anyway, so I wanted to sit down and make a little video about plans going forward into the new year. I've talked about this previously in my last video of 2025, I think. Well, I've briefly mentioned that I have some plans, and I thought I'd make a dedicated video on this to kind of like see where we're standing. So the first goal is about this channel. I do want to try and make more videos on here. I don't want to stress myself, so if I find it impossible to keep up with updates and with talking about books, we will not be doing videos, because this is a hobby for me first and foremost, but I want to get better about consistently doing things on the side, because I think it might train me a little bit better in my life to deal with having a lot of chores. I'm using this as training rules is what I'm saying, because there's no consequences to failing YouTube updates. Listen, we all have to start somewhere. Now, like I said, I've mentioned in the previous video that one thing I don't want to take into 2026 is doing the numbers game. What I specifically mean by that is, for the past, I want to say 2 years, I've done this thing where I have documented how many books I buy versus how many books I read, with the overall goal of having a negative TBR movement. Now, granted, I think negative TBR movement is still great, because I am one of those people who would like to own books that she has read, as opposed to books she hasn't. Or, well, I'd like to own books I haven't read, but I'd like there to be more read books on my shelves than unread, because why else are they occupying space on my shelves, is all I'm saying. And in 2024 this was a relatively decent idea, because I wasn't full employed, like, at all. I think I had, like, a student job at some point, which gave me, like, roughly, like, maybe 500 a month to work with. I didn't have anything close to a full-time job, and I didn't have a whole lot of disposable income, and this changed drastically in 2025, because I was employed for the entirety of it, and I bought way more books than I could manage. I've read 324, I want to say, books in 2024. 5. Not all of them were physical TBR, but over 200 were, and my TBR movement, for physical TBR movement that is, was -6. That's bad. And the problem is not the reading, because evidently I am capable of reading a lot. The problem is the buying. So, my first rule for 2026, when it comes to anything bookish related, is that I am giving myself a spending limit. The reason I'm doing that, instead of doing a, like, oh my god, if you read 2 books then you can buy 1 book, is the 2 versus 1 rule is still dependent on how much I read, and that's what I actively don't want to depend on. This is coming from someone who regularly hits every single reading goal she sets herself, but because I hyperfixate on reading and then don't do anything else in my life, which I don't recommend to anyone doing actually, because it's rather destructive, which you didn't think is possible at first, but here we are. So instead of doing a, like, the amount of books I can buy is dependent upon the books I do read, I'm setting myself a spending limit of €100 per month. This is still decent. That's like 4 to 5 books depending on where I buy them and how much they cost. I am still debating on how to include Illumicrate in this, because on months, because I have 3 Illumicrate subscriptions, on months where I get all 2 of them at the very least, I'll be close to the spending limit already, so I might update you on this one to see how exactly I'm going to take that into account, but the regular going to the bookstore and buying a book, or ordering a book online, is going to be dependent upon the €100 spending limit. Excluded are books I have to get for university, because what can you do? There's a couple of books that I've pre-ordered that are coming in slowly. I'm not going to count them towards the spending limit, but obviously they are books that will end up on the TBR. And I will keep the, like, buying versus reading tab going in the background without any focus on it, because I'm just really curious to see how this is going to work out in a year where I am dedicated to not spending that much goddamn money on books. We will see how that works out. It'll be anyone's mystery. Another thing that I had noticed with the whole buying versus reading situation is that it kept me from reading series on my shelves. Because I have the unfortunate habit of wanting to read a series once it is complete, once I have every single volume on my shelves. This is unfortunate insofar that it's a very bad habit to buy completed series when you haven't even read the first one and don't know if you like the series. So I have a lot of unfinished bought series on my shelves that I didn't start because I was like, if I start them, then I'm probably going to have to buy more books. Mind you, I was buying books by the dozen in the background that had nothing to do with the series I was reading, which is a problem. But it actively kept me from picking up these series, and so now I have a bunch of unread or sometimes unfinished series on my shelves that I would like to get into coming 2026. So I'm going to talk about these in a second because I have a few stacks back here. But that is also something that I want to prioritize in 2026, reading and buying intentionally, as in, yes, books can pique your attention and your interest and whatnot, but we don't have to immediately buy it. Did you know that? We don't have to immediately buy everything that piques our interest. News to me as well, but here we are. So all of that is going to happen as well in 2026. And I think that's like most of what is going to happen in terms of like buying, reading, numbers. We don't like numbers, okay? I said this before in the video and I'll say it again because I think this is important. I am over numbers in the bookish spaces. I understand that some people really love tracking their books, and now don't get me wrong, I still have my Storygraph and I will be tracking the books I read because otherwise this goldfish memory is not remembering shit. My point is more so that I think the numbers game has gained a lot more popularity in a lot of bookish content creator spaces, and I'm really over it. I don't think you can say anything constructively when you tell me that you've read 300 books a year. And I'm saying this as someone who has read 300 books and has told people she has read 300 books. There's nothing said in that sentence, except the fact that you are able to read 300 books a year. That's it. I need all of us to be less obsessed with numbers, and I'm starting with myself, because if you don't start with yourself, you don't get to tell people shit, is all I'm saying. So, numbers game is donezo. We are going to be focusing on the books themselves, and then we see where we get, okay? So there's a chance that I'm not going to be mentioning a lot of numbers when doing wrap-ups, for example. I might just hold some highlights into the camera, for example. I'm not yet sure how I'm going to do this, but the point is I just want to focus less on numbers because I think they don't mean anything at the end of the day. It's a habit that I'm curing myself of, so if I slip up, it'll happen at some point, very likely, but I really want to mention numbers less and less on this channel, and in general when I talk about the books that I read. Now, having all of these somewhat vague but purposeful goals out of the way, let's talk about specific reading goals. So first and foremost, to get away from the series again and back to creating a content on a somewhat regular, I talked about this previously and briefly in the video where I did some unboxings in 2025. I will be fucking up the numbers this entire time. In 2025, I made a video about books that I'd ordered from a publisher called Charco Press. They focus specifically on translating Latin American fiction into English. They are set in Scotland. I will be linking them down below because I think they have a fantastic catalogue of books. And they also have this really lovely thing where they will send you books from their upcoming releases in a box deal sort of thing. You pay, I believe, £10 per books max, which is a decent price in the current economics. And you get the books before they release. So I currently have 2 of the 9 titles that will be releasing in 2026. And my goal is to try and read these books in the month that they are coming out in, and then make a dedicated review/video on the book more or less within the time frame it's coming out. For the 2026 picks, the ones that I already have, we have Apparitions by Margot Glantz, translated by Ellen Jones. This is a really short piece of fiction. We are just at the 100-page mark. This is going to be releasing in January, so I will be trying to read this month and then make a dedicated video on it. And the second one I already have is X is Where I Am by Sara Torres, translated by Maureen Shaughnessy. This releases in March, if I remember correctly. I'll have a quick look. It doesn't say so, but I do believe this releases in March. I will be checking the website once again, so I will be making a dedicated review in March. This is a bit thicker than the other one. We are coming in at 230 pages roughly, and I don't know a whole lot about these books in particular, but I do know that this one is queer, so I am very much looking forward to this. I will be receiving 7 more over the course of the year. I think every single one releases in one dedicated month, so this should be doable for me personally. So if you don't see me making these videos, you are now allowed and also please begged to remind me, because that is actually a goal that I think would be nice and would work out great for this idea of like trying to be a bit more, you know, publishable on YouTube. Now, I have 2 more piles behind me. We're going to have to go through them a bit quicker. These are related to what I talked about previously, which is I want to get into / finish some of the series on my shelves. Now, come here. This, oh god. Don't fall. Thank you. This first pile, and I've grabbed like 1 from each series, and they're not necessarily the first one, but that's okay. This pile are books from series that I've started that I want to finish in 2026, either because I already have all of them, I plan on getting the rest of them because I have a good chunk of them on my shelves, or because the last one, I think for one of these at least, is coming out in 2026, so it would be nice to finish the series when that happens. For all of these, I've started the series, I've read at least 1 book, and I will very likely reread the book in order to get fully back into the series, because I love rereading, okay? The first one on this pile, in absolutely no particular order, is Witch Queen of Red Winter by Ed McDonald. This is the 3rd book in the Red Winter Chronicle series, and the last one in the Red Winter Chronicle series. I read the first one, and I quite enjoyed it. It's a lot of typical fantasy shenanigans. The main character is bisexual and an absolute moron. I love her. And I think these covers are quite stunning. I have all 3 of them in paperback, and I will be going through them one by one. Like I said, I have read the first one, so that will be 1 reread for the year. The second one on here is also the 3rd in the series, and that is The Sovereign by C.L. Clarke, which is the 3rd and last book in the Magic of the Lost series. I have read the first 2. I remember nothing from book 2. I remember more from book 1 because I reread it once already. But I will be rereading both of them to get to the 3rd book in the series. The next one is the 10th volume in the Husky and His White Cat Shizun series by Robo Buchuro. This is a danmei that is going to be finishing in 2026. The 11th and last volume is releasing, I believe, in March or April, one of the 2. I have it pre-ordered, and I have every single other volume, indicative of the fact that I'm holding volume 10 right now. I have read up until volume 8, and I will likely also be rereading, despite the fact that that might not seem like a great idea, because there's some like political plot lines that I don't fully remember anymore, so this is probably going to be my longest reread of the year. Whoops. But the series will be done after this, and I'm quite excited to have another series ticked off of the series TBR. Danmei, by the way, means a Chinese BL. This is, it's a whole thing. I will be talking about this in depth at some point, probably. Suffice it to say, it's very gay. Also, Roba Buchuro, or Meat Bun as she's called in English, is probably not your best way to start with danmei, but if you want to, she's quite unhinged. Now, the next one is probably the biggest project I'm gonna give myself when it comes to series in 2026, and that is, I really fucking want to read Maleficent Book of the Fallen by Steven Erikson. I've read the first book, so Gardens of the Moon, a while back. I parallel read it with the first book in the Wheel of Time series, which was an experience. I am going to reread it because I remember way too little to be jumping into the next book in a rather complex high fantasy series, and I know that there is more than just the original 10 books of Malazan Book of the Fallen. I know that there's like at least 3 spin-off series, I think all of them complete, and the 4th one on the way of being complete. It's one of the 2. My point is, I know that there's more to this universe than just the 10 base books, right? But those 10 are my goal. Anything else is a bonus, but those 10 are my goal. I already own 4 of them, so I will only have to buy 6, which is good news. And I know that these are rather long and that the series is rumored to be really complex, but I have a big brain. I got this, okay? I might make a dedicated review series on this as well, because it's such an interesting, like, well-known and beloved fantasy series. The second people stop being mean to me in the comments is the second I will stop doing that. Now, next, I have the second one of the series here. We have Margaret Owen's Little Thieves series. This is the second book, Painted Devils. There is 3 books out. I don't have the third one yet because it wasn't available as a trade market paperback, which that's how I collect them. I haven't read the second one yet, and I think the third one, trade paperback, is coming out this year, actually. And I don't know if that's where the series ends. I've heard people say yes, I've heard people say no. Point is, the third one is the newest one, so we will be reading up until then. I have read the first one, I will be rereading the first one, and then diving into the second one, probably close to when I get the third one for myself. Because that way we can just binge the whole thing. And last but certainly not least, we have a favourite of mine appear on here, and that would be Tad Williams with The Navigator's Children, which is the 4th and final book in the Last King of Osten art series. He's one of my favourite fantasy authors of all time. I've read the beginning of the Last King of Osten art series. It is a prequel series to another of his that is also set in Osten art, so I don't recommend starting with this one. I will probably be rereading the Last King of Osten art series from the top. Maybe do the first Osten art series as well, if I want to, but we'll see, because that's 8 books, would be 8 books in total then. The Last King of Osten art is only 4, so there we go. I'm very excited for this one, really excited to see how the series is going to conclude. I love this author with all my heart. If anyone knows or likes Ted Williams, comment down below. And also tell me if you want me to make dedicated videos on this man, because I could. From memory at this point, because I think I've reread every single one of his series at least once. Now, these are all the series I've partially started and or will be concluding in 2026, so I just, you know, want to be on top of that. Let's get to the massive pile behind me that is all the books in series that I haven't even started yet. And these are not even all the series, mind you, that I have on my shelves. These are just the series where I'm like, I could maybe do something here in 2026. I think I'm still missing at least 5 series, okay? Don't come for me. Listen. Oh god, let me get that. When you are a fantasy sci-fi fan, series just spawn out of nowhere, okay? I don't even know how it happens. Look at this pile. Alright, from the top, actually, again, no particular order, I just grabbed them off the shelves. We have The Traitor Borrow Cormorant by Seth Dickinson. This is a trilogy so far. Again, I've heard of people say there's potentially a 4th book coming, but it's a trilogy right now, and I have all 3 books because people have told me that it's lesbian and devastating. It's sapphic and devastating. Lesbian and devastating. It's sad and there's women, okay? That's what people told me, so I got the whole trilogy. Just this once, I have disobeyed the idea of getting the first one and then trying it to see if you actually like this series. If I don't like this, I will be devastated and crying in the corner. If I do like it, I will probably also be crying in the corner, but that's okay. 3 books, this is the first one. Then, another big chonker, we have The Dandelion Dynasty, represented by The Grace of Kings, by Ken Liu. I want to buddy read this with a friend of mine. There's 4 books in the series, and I own 2, so I would only be buying 2 more, which is nice. These are also rather thick. I do believe these are more sci-fi leaning than fantasy. I've heard people say mixed things about these 2 genres here as well. I wouldn't know. I'll find out when I get to them. And it'll probably be rather soon, actually, because we intended to pick up the first book in January. So, let's see where that goes. I am excited for it because I've heard fantastic things about it. Next one is a bind-up of 4 books, but it is still a series, and that would be the Seed to Harvest series by Octavia E. Butler, including Wild Seed, Mind of My Mind, Clay's Ark, and Pattern Master, her only tetralogy, I think, because most of her other trilogies are just the Parable of the Sower duology. This is a bind-up of like over 700 pages, but I am counting it as a series goal of mine, even though it's technically just 1 book off the TBR. This will be my 3rd time reading Octavia E. Butler. 4th if I count a short story that I've also read by hers. And I am excited because I do want to read her entire bibliography. So you say it, right? I want to read all that she's wrote, is my point. I've heard from some people that book 1 was really great and then book 2 fell off. I'm intrigued to see how I think about this. Each book is like, I think like aroundish the like 200 page mark, give or take 250 page mark, which is how we get to the page count of 750, which I think is fine. I'm probably going to be reading them book by book. So there's a chance that I'm going to put this book on pause every now and then, just because I am pausing in between books, actually, you know. But I'm excited. Next, another big one. And I only have 2 of this, which when you see the series I'm about to hold into the camera will make you go, but Zilla, that's a lot of books you would have to buy. Correct. So that's why this one is the most maybe out of all of the ones I'm holding into the camera, and that would be The Leviathan Wakes by James S. A. Corey, The Expanse, book 1. I have 2 books of this series. I think there's like 11 or 13. Whoops. I have watched the TV series up until season 5, so technically I know some of the things that are happening in these books, because I have heard that a TV series is pretty accurate, except for the fact that they apparently seem to be juggling some timelines around a little bit to like introduce some characters quicker or something, which I don't really mind. But like technically I should know what happens on books 1 and 2. Again, this is a solid maybe on the pile, simply because I don't know if my budget is gonna allow for me to buy like upwards of 10 books for just 1 completed series. So what I might do is start this one later in the year and then carry it over into 2027, but we will see. We will see. I still put it on the pile because, you know, it is a series on my shelves that I've not started yet, because I was like, oh my god, but what if I have to buy a lot of books for it? And then I went ahead and bought a lot of books in other parts. Anyway, whatever. This is another trilogy. I have the first one, I'm missing the other 2. Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky. I don't remember what the series is called, and that's okay. I know that this is a trilogy, though. This will be my 2nd time reading Adrian Tchaikovsky. I've had a great experience with his standalone Guns of the Dawn, so I am quite excited. I have 2 first books of a series of his on my shelves, but one of them is the Act of the 7 or something is what it's called, I think. That one has 10 books. So we're going to do the trilogy first. And we're going to see where that leads us. I think this looks rather nice. It's very stereotypically sci-fi. Love that. Next is something that I'm actually debating on doing, well, on doing a readathon with some people on Instagram with, and that would be the Devabat trilogy by S.A. Chakraborty, with the first one being City of Brass. I have the first one, as evidenced here. I don't have the other 2 and the short story / novella that is also part of this, but I will be buying them consecutively, probably for every month that the readathon is going on. The entire readathon is leading up to May's release of The Tapestry of Fate, which is the 2nd book in the Amina al-Sirafi series, also by S.A. Chakraborty. So I will probably just continue to buy the books as the readathon goes on, so this might be a little bit of a slower read for me, with 1 book dedicated for each month. I am quite excited because I've had this on my shelves for ages and I did not pick it up because, once again, I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna have to buy the other books in the series if I like it. Yeah, well, buying books is your hobby at this point, so what are we even complaining about? Now the last three are also sci-fi series. If you can see a theme here, close your eyes. The theme is that I read my fantasy series a lot faster than I read my sci-fi series. The first one is The Blighted Stars by Megan O'Keefe. This is the first book in the Devoured Worlds trilogy, I believe. I've read one of her standalones, the hell was it called? Raven Scythe, something along those lines. I will pop the cover somewhere here, and you can all laugh at the fact that I didn't remember the title. And I enjoyed it. It wasn't the best I've ever read, but it was a lot of fun. I quite enjoyed it. And I've had people say that this is one of her best works. Also, I mean, the cover is stunning. So, I'm excited to get into this. I'm missing 2 books, if I can do the math correctly, and we will see how much I like it, and whether or not I will be continuing on with it. Next, we have Ancillary Justice by Anne Letsky, or Lecky. I'm never fully sure how people like to pronounce her name. This is, again, the first book in a trilogy. I don't remember what the trilogy is called, and the book is not telling me, so we will remain unknowing. First book in the trilogy. I'm quite happy having this cover still, but I'm a bit worried because I think I will only be able to get the newer covers for book 2 and 3, so they're not gonna match, and also I think the new covers are ugly as fuck. But, I've heard fantastic things about this one. Really, like, gender fuckery, sci-fi vibes, with some, linguistics in there, I think. Very exciting. Again, didn't pick it up because I would have had to buy the other books. There's a theme here, and the theme is not kind to me. And last but certainly not least, we have These Burning Stars by Bethany Jacobs. This is the first book in the Kingdom trilogy. Very original name. I think this is also Sapphics. I'm not 100% sure, but I think. But either way, sci-fi. And also look at that cover. Stunning. I've heard good things about this one too. I've had a lot of people quite enjoy it. So I am excited to get into this once again. I didn't buy the other ones because, you know. I'm probably gonna do like some sort of raffle situation on my end to figure out with which series I will be starting. I will likely start with the ones I own completely or almost completely first, just because that means I don't have to already dip into the January budget, which I haven't done so far. Kudos to me. But we will see with what series I will be entering 2026, and with how many unread series or unfinished series on my shelves I will be leaving 2026. I might prioritize some of the trilogies as well, simply because they're easier read than a 10-book series, and also they will cost me less money than a 10-book series to complete in most cases. So, you know, there is that. But yes, these are some of the, like, concrete plans I have for 2026. Overall, this is going to be the year where we do not fuck around with numbers, except for the fact that I have a budget on books to spend, because if I don't give myself a budget, I will end up in the exact same situation I ended in last year, which is I bought over 200 books. Way more than 200 books, mind you. And that's a problem because I can only control the buying. I cannot artificially inflate the speed of reading, so we will calm down, is what we will be doing. But yeah, let me know in the comments down below if there's any series that you would either like me to start with, I am open to suggestions, or that you would like dedicated reviews on, either per book or just in general for the whole series. I'm open to both. I don't really mind yapping about books on here anyway. And also feel free to let me know in the comments down below if there's any series on here that you have read and that you really, really liked, or if there's series on here where you're like, I don't think you should be doing that to yourself. In which case I will very likely be ignoring your comment, but it will be fun to know nevertheless, because, you know, I do want to try all of these books. Otherwise I wouldn't have bought them. But yeah, I hope that you have a nice reading experience going into 2026. Consider putting your reading goal at 1 book. Just a thought. I hope that you have a nice reading experience going into this new year, that you will continue to have a nice reading experience, and I will see you soon.